everyone, and welcome to today's IELTS class. Just getting going here. Give me a second. Running a little bit behind. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's IELTS class. First class for this week, as we usually do. We start on Wednesday. Live IELTS classes go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Hello, Kamlesh. Hi, Anoop. Hi, Dipti. Hi, Safa. Hi, Chick. Good to see you girls and guys in class right now. Awesome. First things first, I just want to check. Hi, Manushi. I just want to double check with all of you that you can hear me and see me okay. Can everybody hear me okay right now? And can you see me okay? Can you see the board okay? Just throw a couple of yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can see you and see the board out there for me. Looks like we have a good number of students joining. Thank you, Hadil. Thank you, Manushi. Thank you, Ali. Awesome. Okay, so girls and guys, today we are focusing on IELTS listening, example and strategy, and we will look at part 3 and part 4 of the listening test. Listening is the same for general and for academic. Okay, so if you're taking academic IELTS, you are in the right place. It looks like video playback just got interrupted. Can everybody still see me okay right now? Because on my end it's showing that there's no video. You can still see me okay? On my end shows that there's no video right now. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, I don't need to see myself, so as long as you can see me, that's fine. All right. Again, listening today, it's the same for academic. So if you're here for academic, great. If you're here for general, great, because listening is the same for both. And the strategy is basically the same for both as well. So definitely pay attention to the points that I'm covering today. And we're looking at part 3 and 4. We did part 1 and 2 on Sunday. That was the last class for last week. So if you want to catch up for part 1 and part 2 of the listening, then just go back and look at the lesson that was on Sunday, okay? That's on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see all of our IELTS lessons and live video recordings, as well as pre-recorded lessons, practice or example speaking interviews, and lessons for all the other parts, writing and reading and all of the other parts of IELTS as well. So again, you can use the coupon code LIVE20, LIVE20, for a 20% discount from our websites. We have the best websites for online IELTS learning in the world, we believe. We offer some very unique features to our materials. Our materials are developed by education psychologists, so people who are experts in exam creation and testing human thinking and human speech and language. You can use Super Chat in your chat stream there. That's the little $ beside the emoji. If you have that in your country, please do use Super Chat. If you have an important question or something to say, use Super Chat. Pay a couple dollars. It creates a sticky message that I can see for longer and more clearly. If you want some practice IELTS speaking interview with me, please send me an email to Adrian. That's my name, by the way, Adrian at aehelp.com. We have started RuPaul. I'm just giving my introductory speech right now, so give some information for new students and remind some returning students of what kind of options we have for you. Yes, it's a sales pitch, guys and girls. I know that. Obviously, we get a lot of advertising these days, and maybe too much, and we're not a big fan of it. But this is positive advertising, in my opinion. I'm trying to sell you on services and products that I really do think will help you to improve your IELTS score. And a lot of students forget that IELTS is expensive. So whether you're paying or your parents are paying, IELTS cost almost $300 US for each test. That's a lot of money for many different economies. And if you have to do the test again, then that's $600. So compared to that, our courses and our products are very, very cheap. It only costs a fraction of the exam. And if you get these materials and you pass using these materials, then you can save yourself a lot of time, headache, and be proud of the score that you get. Plus, a lot of the strategies that we teach you are useful for university as well. And I know that some of you who are watching right now do use our products and know this firsthand. So thank you for commenting about those positive experiences, Ramesh. And I know, Safa, you use it as well. So I know you had a little trouble with the video, but I hope that works out. So, okay, so we are always glad for your support. We always encourage you to study hard, reach for your dreams. You're all very smart. You can definitely learn another language. There are a lot of people in this world who speak a second, third, fourth language. So our brains are incredible supercomputers and can learn multiple languages, okay? So never get discouraged, never give up, always believe in yourself, all right? Okay, so again, today we're looking at listening 3 and 4. It's coming from our website. This is what our academic website looks like. So when you go to aehelp.com, I'll put the address up here as well so you can see it there regularly, aehelp.com. And then if you're doing general IELTS, this is our general IELTS website here. And the website there is www.gieltshelp.com. We are one of the only companies in the world that separate academic from general IELTS study because obviously students take these exams for different goals. And the reading and writing sections are a little bit different, and it's important not to confuse those two. So if you're studying for academic IELTS, focus on academic IELTS. If you're studying for general IELTS, focus on general IELTS, okay? So general IELTS, please go to our website that has this green background motif. If you're studying for academic IELTS, please go to this one. You log in at the top right there. I just logged in. And then you have lots of tools after you log in to help you prepare and study for IELTS and get a high score. I'm not going to show you everything today. Many of you know we have 6 full practice exams. We have a full course, interactive on your tablet or phone, lesson videos. There's more than 40 hours. And then we have our interactive practice tests and our IELTS audio CDs. So we're going to use our audio CDs for the listening section today. We also include extra audio for learning the British accent for the reading section and speaking examples. So lots of audio materials for you there. And now let's take a peek at the exam book with the actual questions, okay? So we're looking at test 5. So for those of you who have our books, please open up your second test book and look at test 5, okay? So this material is coming from test 5 in your second test book, okay? So if you have our book, please follow with your own account from home. If you have the materials printed out, that's great, okay? You want to print pages, I think 46 to 50, okay? So you see 46 here. 46 to 50 are the pages that you'd want to have printed in front of you. So print those now while I go over some strategies for the listening section. So again, use coupon code LIVE20 for a 20% discount when you join our full course. You can also try our course for absolutely free. Just click on the demo version, okay? Now this is a little bit of review and a bit of new knowledge for those of you who are new. So step 1, when you're in the reading section, they'll give you some time to review questions. So it'll say you have time to read the questions, and then when you do that, you look for keywords and you paraphrase them in your mind during the test. lot of students asked me last class as well, should I underline important words in the listening section? So should I take my pencil and underline what I think are keywords in the listening section? And I said, do not underline keywords. It is not a good idea. The reason why, because it's a waste of your time, since many of those words are actually paraphrased in the audio. So you're focusing on hearing this word and you don't actually hear the word because you hear a paraphrase, okay? Now, we covered paraphrasing techniques. So paraphrasing techniques, there are 5. Anybody remember what paraphrasing is? So what is paraphrasing? Can somebody just tell me? That's right, Manushi, do not underline. What is paraphrasing? Adil says it's synonyms. Yeah, partly synonyms. Yeah, it's giving the same meaning using different words. In fact, it's not just words. We can even paraphrase with our body language, right? And if you look at people in the real world, we actually do paraphrase with body language. So in the speaking section, you can do that. You can say up, down, bad, good, big, tiny, small. Okay, so we can body language paraphrase as well, but definitely to say the same meaning with different words, and we can do it in different ways. So here we have synonyms like big and large. Okay, that's one way. So one way to paraphrase is by using synonyms, big, large. Okay. Another way that we can paraphrase is antonym negative. So it means stay, don't go. Okay? Stay is the same as don't go, obviously. So it comes from math, right? -1 times -1 is +1. It's the same thing in math. Math does paraphrasing just like language, okay? Math is a type of language. So -1 times -1 is +1. So therefore, antonym and negative, stay equals don't go, right? 2 negatives here do make a positive. Another way to paraphrase is with grammar. There are lots of different kinds of paraphrasing with grammar. I gave the example of present perfect. So I had the experience of visiting France at some time in the past is the same as saying I have visited France. Okay? Is everybody clear so far? Everybody's following me, right? Now, IELTS, before you think I'm going off topic here and I'm going crazy, IELTS uses a lot of paraphrasing because one of the reasons we paraphrase is to test the understanding of the listener. That's not just in another language. It's the same thing in your language, okay? Thank you, John and Joa, for agreeing with me on those. Absolutely, if you understand paraphrasing, you become a much more powerful communicator, not just in another language like English, but in your own language as well. Another way to paraphrase is with expressions. That includes phrasal verbs and idioms, such as encounter means to come across or run into, or run across means meet by chance, which is the 5th way of paraphrasing. So the 5th way of paraphrasing is with description, right? So description, idioms apps world is asking what is idioms. Idioms are basically common types of expressions like to hit 2 birds with 1 stone means to accomplish 2 goals with 1 action, okay? It's not really slang, but it's a common type of metaphor used in the history of a language that is understood as having some specific meaning. Okay, description is another way to paraphrase, like it's a large gray animal with big ears that lives in Africa and India, and so people know that what I'm talking about is an elephant because I'm describing what I'm talking about. So paraphrasing, by the way, is used for many reasons in language, okay? Paraphrasing is to check understanding. It's to show understanding, okay? It's also used for emphasis. It's also used for clarity, Okay, so there are lots of different reasons why we paraphrase language, okay? Lots of different reasons. And one of the reasons for IELTS is to test you, okay? All right, let's get into some paraphrasing. Now, before, when we looked at the listening section, what we did before is we paraphrased questions, right? So here is section 3, and of course section 3 and section 4 are more difficult than section 1 and 2. It's definitely the more challenging section for students. So you really want to practice paraphrasing questions and transcripts at home, okay? Now here we have some words. How long ago was the first record of a trade between nations? So what we're going to do here is look at the questions. We're going to do a little bit of paraphrasing, and then we'll also look at the transcripts. So we'll do paraphrasing from 2 different directions, and this is a really good exercise for you at home, okay? So for those of you who have the book, please write this down in your notes as well. So it is a good idea to practice paraphrasing IELTS listening questions at home before the test, okay? So that's 1. But 2, it's also important to paraphrase transcripts, okay, for the listening section as well. So it's another good exercise. It's a little bit different, and it's another way that you can keep your study a little bit more interesting. So it doesn't get so boring if you're just paraphrasing questions. Also, it is good practice to paraphrase the transcripts and check to see if it matches questions, especially for part 3 and 4 of listening. Now, if you're a little bit lost, it's okay. Don't worry. I'll show you an example in a moment here. Okay? So let's jump back here to the listening questions. So it says section 3, questions 21 to 30. Of course, it shows you in the book where you find that track in your online course. And then here's the first question. So how long ago was the first record of trade between nations? What are some key words in this question that you can practice paraphrasing? Okay, so what are a couple of words in this question that you think would be good to paraphrase? So you're sitting down at home, you printed listening section 3 from test 5 in your book at aehelp.com, and now you're going, okay, I'm going to practice some paraphrasing today, so I'm going to paraphrase some of these words. All right, how long? Yeah, absolutely, you can paraphrase that, or how long ago? Okay, some of you said record, I think, right? Yeah, Hike says record. Trade, sure. Okay. Anything else? First, yeah, you might want to paraphrase that, absolutely. Nations, sure. So let's try that. And you'll notice that in part 3 of listening, there are a lot more words for you to paraphrase. Of course, paraphrasing in part 3 is heavier than part 1 or part 2. So how long ago? What can we say about that? When, right. So I'll cover different question types as well. Yagnesh, like I'll cover multiple choice, but we're going step by step here. So this could be when. Now, usually the question statement is not actually paraphrased for your listening because they're just talking, they're making statements. But you might hear, if it's an interview, you might hear the interviewer say a question like, when was, right? Okay, first record. So what's another way to say first? Anybody know what another way to say first is? Yeah, initial is a great word to know. Initial is an excellent word to know for first. If you're at home and you're watching this, please take a pencil and a pen and a piece of paper and write these down, okay? In the beginning. Yeah, it might be another one. Sure. What's another way to say trade? Upon commencement, Siraj. Yeah, absolutely. Or Sarai, yeah. What's another way to say trade? Business, sure. Okay, absolutely. Transaction of goods and services, yeah. Or just transaction. Trans means across, like transcontinental, and action, right? So transaction is another good word for trade, okay? Commerce is another good way, absolutely. Thank you for that one, Ahmed. Yeah. What's another way to say nations? Anybody a different way to say nations? Countries, sure. Okay, so good job paraphrasing that. All right, let's take another one. Okay, so this is a flowchart type question. I'm going to erase this. In fact, instead of looking at another question so quickly, just while we're on point here, you know what? Let's look at the transcripts and see the actual audio. So again, you don't have to be listening to audio at home to practice for the listening section. You can begin just by looking at this type of exercise. So you should always study from IELTS textbooks that includes the transcripts. So that you can do this kind of study. So here we have it on page 139. Okay. So you're looking at the transcripts right now. So you're actually looking at the script for the listening section, okay? So what I've done is I've jumped to the back of the book. So if you're at home and you're following this lesson from your test book, this is on page 100 and, let me see here, 139, okay? So, so go to page 139 and then you can find this transcript. Okay, so here you see that there's a conversation between a moderator and Dr. Young. Moderator says, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Young and Dr. Sturgeon for taking the time to spend this afternoon with us. So you can go through the transcript step by step. It's an easier way to understand what the listening is about. If you are weak in English, if your skill level isn't at an IELTS level 7 or 8 yet, I definitely suggest starting with the transcripts. If you don't have the book, it's okay. I know that some of you don't. Okay. And then here you have in bold, can everybody see that this is bold? This one here? Can everybody see that this is bold here and this is not bold? And it shows you that the answer for question 21 is coming from this sentence. Okay? So it says, Dr. Young, well, countries and nation states have been participating in free trade schemes for millennia. The ancient Egyptians, for example, participated in trade with the Arabians across the Red Sea over 3,000 years ago. The Roman Empire imported many goods from outside their lands, especially luxury goods such as silk, which were only available in China. Free trade, however, though, has much younger roots. Okay, so it says here that countries and nation states have been participating in free trade schemes for millennia. The ancient Egyptians, for example, participated in trade with the Arabians across the Red Sea over 3,000 years ago. So here we have the answer for question number 21. So here's my question to you. What kind of paraphrasing is IELTS using here to give you the answer for question number 21? So we talked about synonyms, antonym, negatives. What kind of paraphrasing does the IELTS test and the test maker use here to give you the answer for 21? Not what's the answer, Hike, but what type of paraphrasing? It's not a synonym. You don't see many synonyms here, right? So trade is the same word, trade. Participate is okay. 3,000 years ago is what? So remember, I showed you 5 types of paraphrasing, right? Synonyms, antonym negatives, expressions. That's right, Mohammed. Thank you. So Mohammed says that this is descriptive paraphrasing. Absolutely. So what IELTS does here is it describes for you, which is basically an example here, of the earliest trade that happened, which was 3,000 years ago, right? So it's just like when I said to you that it's a large animal, it's gray, it lives on land, it lives in Africa, it lives in India, and it has big ears. And you say, well, that's an elephant, okay? So here it tells us that it was the Egyptians and Arabians, okay? So the Egyptians and the Arabians are the nations, right? So if I jump back to page 46, okay, it says, how long ago was the first record of trade between nations, right? Egyptians and Arabs here are the nations, right? So it's a description that gives me the paraphrase for nations, right? Trade between Egyptians and Arabs, right? So that's what gives me the paraphrase there. So that's what you're listening for. So this is what shows you and teaches you the type of paraphrasing that you're listening for to get the correct answer. So the correct answer is going to be 3,000 years. Absolutely. Okay? So here, it's not the answer that's important, but what's important is how we get the answer. Okay? So when you're studying IELTS at home, focus on not just what the answers are, but really focus on how you get those answers. That's how you can get a nice high IELTS score, all right? So when you study IELTS at home, IELTS listening, that's also true for the reading section, by the way, at home, don't just focus on answers, but focus on how those answers are achieved. Okay? That's very important. That's one of the parts of the study that a lot of students miss. So a lot of students really focus in on answers, but they don't focus in how you get those answers. And the big trick on getting a high score on IELTS is really focusing on how you get those answers, okay? So let's take a look at one more example. All right? And then I promise you that we will do the listening. So we will listen to the audio and you will have a chance to answer these questions. So you will get a chance here to practice. Of course, you can do a lot of practice on our website at ahelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. So it's great that you're watching the live stream and you're learning the strategies, but also remember to do the practice. Go to our websites and join those courses, okay? So let's have a look at another question here. This is a flowchart type question. So one of the question types for the IELTS listening is a flowchart. The answers, of course, are coming in order. Okay, it's really important when you get a flowchart type question that you review the question in the time given to review. And then if you miss an answer, like if you miss 22, then don't worry about it because you have to go to 23. If you worry about 22 and you realize that they're already talking about playing field, then you can easily miss question 23. So a flowchart, you have to really go in sequence because the answers are coming one after the next, okay? I appreciate you, Apps World, for agreeing with the thought that you have to focus on how you get an answer as well, okay? All right, so let's look at this. And then let's paraphrase a little bit, then we'll look at the transcripts. Or we can look at the transcripts first, and then we can look at the answers. But anyway, let's go this way this time. So let's look at the questions first. We'll do it in reverse for section number 4. All right. Country A produces a product for a 20% higher cost than country B. What is a question that I'm going to have to... sorry, let's keep going. There's no question there. So a company in country A imports the product. If the country does not have a free trade agreement, the company must pay a something to import the product. This is to level the playing field for something. So let's paraphrase this question here. A company in country A imports the product. What can we paraphrase in this first part? So a company in country A imports the product. What can we paraphrase? Yeah, country A and country B. We might get some examples for that. I have a feeling maybe not. How about a company? What's another way? Yeah, product. Absolutely, Hadil. Imports products, Arash, absolutely. So import product. Also company, I would say, is probably nouns are often paraphrased. Okay, so supply, yep, is a good way to paraphrase import. So country A gets a supply for sure. Country might be nation. I don't think country A is going to be paraphrased. I think that's what the speaker will use. But how about company? Akmal, you should paraphrase because the listening, the audio, will not use the exact same words as the question. It will be a paraphrase. So you're training your brain to pick out paraphrasing, okay? Corporation, business, yeah. Business. Absolutely. Producer, organization, firm, yeah. Also, by the way, one of the reasons that you should paraphrase is because it's one of the ways that you improve your vocabulary. It is probably the best way to build your vocabulary by doing good paraphrasing. Entity is good as well, Abdel Salam. Entity could be used as well. What's another way to say product? What's another way to say product? Yeah, goods and services, commodity, absolutely, those are great. So goods, commodity, commodities, yeah. Items, merchandise. Absolutely, so those are all ways that we might see that, okay? And then the question goes on. If the country does not have a free trade agreement, the company must pay. Something you might see there is has to pay. Okay, instead of must. A free trade agreement or contract. Okay. So that is great. And that's what you want to do at home. You want to print your listening section questions, and before you listen, okay, this is before you listen, you want to do that kind of paraphrasing. And then you want to listen and see what happened in the paraphrasing. Now, of course, one way to see your paraphrasing is by going to the transcripts. So here we have the transcripts, okay? Now here, have a look. So here we have the transcripts, and here we have the answer for question 22, okay? Tax is a good paraphrase, Yi-Quin Wang, absolutely, for tariffs. So it says here, so this is what you will hear in the audio, country A is likely to impose a tariff on the importation of country B's cheaper product into country A. Okay, so here we have the word tariff, paraphrasing, okay, impose. Impose a tariff means has to pay a, and then the answer, which of course here will be tariff. So has to pay is paraphrased by impose. Okay. Manufacturer paraphrases business or corporation. And I believe one of you actually said manufacturer. So when you were paraphrasing that at home and you said, okay, another way to say company is a manufacturer, then you realize that, okay, bam, that's what I'm listening for. And when I catch that, now I know what the correct answer is or where it's coming from, and my score is going to go up. Okay, so you can see here that we're using synonyms. There's also grammar being used here for paraphrasing. So that's what you want to say. Okay, this used synonyms and grammar. So if we go back, you can do this after you've done the paraphrasing and you check the transcripts. You can actually name the paraphrasing that was used. So on your paper at home, when you have the listening in front of you, then you can make a record of what different kinds of paraphrasing you find in different sections of IELTS exams. And of course, you can do this with our 6 practice exams on our websites at aehelp.com and gieltshelp.com, and you can also do it with the Cambridge exams. Book 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 9. Okay, those are real exams. So you can see what kinds of paraphrasing strategies were used in past IELTS exams. So you can say, for example, that in this one, they're using descriptive paraphrasing, right? You can say descriptive paraphrasing. And then here, you can say for the next one, for question number 22, you can say synonyms and grammar. Now, the reason why it's good to write down what kind of paraphrasing or how they get these answers is because you see how often a certain type of paraphrasing is used in a different section of listening, okay? It's a very good way to train your brain, okay? All right, so now I'll give you the chance to practice a little bit. We'll actually listen and get the answers for section 3, okay? So get a piece of paper in front of you and a pencil, and I will play the audio. So just because it's a section 3, I'll give you a chance to go through the questions a little bit slower here. Just give me a moment. Okay, and we'll do that together. Okay, Manushi says in the instructions, if it says answer no more than 3 words and or a number, does it mean we can say right like this, 12th Street, Roseberry? Yes, absolutely. Those will be considered 2 words and a number. So 12th is 1 word. Okay? Hi, Madhu. I'm doing good, thanks. Thank you for asking. All right, so let's go through the questions, give you a chance here to do well. So write no more than 1 word for each answer. How long ago was the first record of trade between nations? The number of years. And then we have the flowchart type question. Write no more than 2 words and or a number for each answer. Country A produces a product for 20% higher cost than country B. A company in country A imports the product. If the country does not have a free trade agreement, the company must pay a to import the product. This is to level the playing field for. If the countries do have a free trade agreement, the company does not have to pay to import the item. Some advocates of protectionism believe free trade advocates are only worried about maximizing for large corporations. Questions 25 to 26. Write no more than 3 words and or a number for each answer. Some people will lose their jobs under free trade agreements, but we must emphasize the needs of the and not be sidetracked by the needs of the. Free trade lowers the price of many goods because it increases. Okay, and then question 27 to 28 is a table completion. Write no more than 1 word for each answer. It's cause and effect. When it's a table, always pay very close attention to the headings, right? So here you're listening for words like because, as a result of, one of the effects of. So these kinds of vocabulary are very important. Okay? Enter into free trade agreements, jeopardize human rights standards, sweatshops collapse. The conditions are highlighted in the relation that such incidents are not isolated, implore companies something to raise the bar. Okay? And then we have 2 multiple choice questions. One of you were asking me about the multiple choice. Choose the correct letters. What is Dr. Young's main point in advocating for free trade? A, free trade agreements are single biggest economic driver for making the world a better place. Free trade agreements are not perfect, but they are a good step towards increasing global welfare. Free trade agreements are not always positive, but can be an important way to level the playing field for domestic manufacturers. And question 30, what is Dr. Sturgeon's main point in advocating for protectionism? Overall wealth is increased in society. Middle-class jobs are the foundation of an economy that works for few and not just for domestic manufacturers. Free trade agreements are bad because they concentrate wealth in the hands of an elite few. Okay, so we read the questions for part 3, and now we will listen. Just before I play the audio, an important question to all of you. What is this listening going to be about? So this listening section 3, what will it be about? Implore is to use. Erpi. Implore means to use. Chennai, if one answer is correct and the other one's wrong, if it's 2 questions, you get 1 point less. If it's the same question and it needs 2 right answers, then you get it wrong. So Mohammed says it's the trade between countries. Yeah. Import and exports. Sure. I think trade is a little bit more accurate to the topic. Safa says trade between 2 countries. Yes. Can you guys be a little bit more specific of when you say trade? What kind of trade are we talking about here? You can tell that it's a comparison. When you have a cause and effect, so when you have a question like this where you have a table for cause and effect, and when you can see that there are multiple speakers, you can guess that it's probably some kind of a debate. Okay? So some kind of an argument between 2 people or 3 people. So Maria says international trade and domestic trade. I don't think so. I definitely think it's more to do with international trade. And hopefully a lot of you realized that there's a word that keeps coming up, which is free trade, or a term, free trade. Does everybody know the meaning of free trade? Okay. Well, that's definitely something important, and this is where it's a good idea to review some topics on sociology, economics, history before you sit the IELTS. Free trade is when two countries have an agreement that they don't put a tax on each other's goods and imports. Like, for example, between US, Canada, and Mexico, there's NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. It's called NAFTA. And that means that the United States, Canada, and Mexico can export and import and trade with each other without having to pay a tax, which makes it more convenient and more effective economically in many ways to trade. Now, the opposite is protectionism, where we put taxes on the trade. So if I want to buy trees from you, if I want to buy oil from you, if I want to buy energy from you, then I have to pay a certain type of, or you have to pay a certain type of tax to export to me, or I have to pay a certain type of tax to import from you. Okay, so it's kind of the opposite. It's not free trade. All right, hopefully you got that before we start this listening. All right, now don't get discouraged. Again, this is part 3, so it is going to be more difficult than part 1. Please get your paper and pencil ready. And I will start up this listening audio. Okay, is everyone ready? Do you have your pencil and your paper in front of you? You'll have to give the answers. Or find the answers. Everyone ready to go?
Now turn to section 3. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 26.
I agree with Minushi. Please be respectful for everyone. So let everyone try to find the answers on their own. So don't write answers. We'll go over them at the end.
Forum discussion between the moderator and 2 contributors, Dr. Rachel Young and Dr. Ronald Sturgeon, both political scientists at the local university, talking about trade between countries. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Young and Dr. Sturgeon for taking the time to spend this afternoon with us.
Thank you for having us here today.
Dr. Young, could you give us a little background on the topic of free trade and protectionism, a little history?
Well, countries and nation-states have been participating in free trade schemes for millennia. The ancient Egyptians, for example, participated in trade with the Arabians across the Red Sea over 3,000 years ago. The Roman Empire imported many goods from outside their lands, especially luxury goods such as silk, which were only available in China. Free trade, however, though, has much younger roots.
Could you define free trade and protectionism for us, Dr. Sturgeon?
Free trade is trade between countries without taxes, tariffs, or other regulations attached. Without a free trade agreement, nations charge taxes or tariffs on goods that are imported to their country. This is to protect the manufacturers within their country. If country A, for example, produces a product for a 20% higher cost than country B, country A is likely to impose a tariff on the importation of country B's cheaper product into country A. This is to level the playing field for domestic manufacturers. Free trade advocates want to take down this barrier. In my opinion, advocates of free trade do not care about domestic manufacturers and workers in their own country. I believe their only intention is to maximize profit for big international businesses.
I know Dr. Sturgeon is impassioned about protectionism, but what he fails to mention is that while free trade may lead to some lost jobs in certain sectors, it leads to many other jobs in other sectors. This may be cold comfort to those in, say, manufacturing or textiles, but we must not be blind to the needs of the many and be distracted by the needs of the few. Nobody says free trade between countries is perfect, but it is certainly better than a protectionist framework which costs the country jobs and prosperity. Another point I would like to make is that free trade increases competition and thus lowers the price of many goods. This saves consumers money. Purchasing a car, for example, is much cheaper under free trade agreements. While such agreements may appear undesirable for a British company such as Land Rover, since they are given price disadvantage within the United Kingdom, this is not the whole story. While it is true that the company is at a minor disadvantage within their home country, free trade agreements puts them in an equally advantageous position in other countries in which the UK has a free trade agreement.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 27 to 30.
This is a very interesting discussion. Dr. Sturgeon, from reading some of your work, I know you have some ethical concerns about free trade.
Yes, I have a number of ethical concerns. First and foremost, free trade agreements incentivize highly unethical sweatshops. When countries such as the United Kingdom enter free trade agreements with countries with lower human rights standards, we put ourselves at risk of tacitly endorsing those low human rights standards. Is the ability to wear slightly cheaper clothing really worth selling out on one of our most basic beliefs, that people should be treated with respect?
I agree with Dr. Sturgeon that human rights is an ongoing issue in free trade. Certain incidents, such as sweatshops collapsing and killing dozens of workers, have highlighted this issue in the media and public discourse, but these are isolated incidents.
Hardly. These are not isolated at all. And even if such horrible incidents were rare, does it make the conditions those workers work in permissible? Do we excuse horrible working conditions as long as the workers don't die? That's an incredibly low bar, and one I believe we must implore companies and governments to raise.
Okay, let's move on. Dr. Young, do you believe free trade betters the life of the average British citizen?
Absolutely. I believe free trade agreements make us more prosperous as a society. While not perfect, I truly believe pursuing free trade agreements is a positive step in making our world a better place.
Of course, I disagree. While I do not doubt that more wealth comes into our country as a result of free trade agreements, I believe this money never improves the life of the average citizen. The rich get richer and the middle-class workers get laid off. Not to mention the ethical issues I have with this.
That is the end of section 3.
Okay, that's listening section 3. Now we'll go through the answers. Hopefully you recognized quite a bit of paraphrasing there. Definitely a lot more paraphrasing in section 3 than in section 2 or 1. That's of course because section 3 is more difficult and section 4 is the most difficult. So practice that paraphrasing at home. And again, this audio that you just heard, it's coming from our website at ahelp.com. For academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. So you can get all this practice material there along with videos and lots of other help. Let's look at the questions and then go through. So we know that the first one here is 3,000 years. We discussed that one. So if there are some new students who just joined, we did catch this one. It's 3,000 years. It's trade between the Egyptians and the Arabic people. Okay. Now, let's go through questions 22 to 24. So here, one of the key pieces that you're listening for to know when the flowchart answers come is this 20% higher. So as soon as you hear the 20% higher, you know that you should be listening for answer 22 and 23 shortly after hearing that. Okay? Yes, Yagnesh, this audio is exactly like the audio in the real exam. Okay? This is exactly the same difficulty, exactly the same kinds of accents, and so on. So number 22, Raya says, is tariff. That's right. Okay? So they say the company has to pay a tariff for the import product. This is to level the playing field for what? What's the answer for number 23? That's right, Hadil. Domestic manufacturers. Please write it all lowercase like this. Domestic manufacturers. Okay? So all lowercase or all uppercase. Don't capitalize that D, Mohammed. Okay? So keep that D small. Okay? And you need both words to get the answer because domestic is very important. By the way, what does domestic mean? What is the meaning of domestic for those of you who know this word? What is the definition? Yeah, local. Yeah, it's the people within the country, right? Yeah, local. L-O-C-A-L. That's right. Careful with your spelling. So, local manufacturers. Okay, good. And here, when you see this type of quotation, okay, it's another hint or strategy for you to pay attention to on IELTS. When you see a quotation, it means that you will actually hear the audio say this exact expression, level the playing field. So there are some key pieces of information and vocabulary that you know will likely be the exact same in the audio, such as 20%, and level the playing field. So you're listening for those because those are markers for where you are in the listening section, okay? So that's another strategy that you want to use or implore during your IELTS listening section, okay? Pay attention to keywords, numbers. Keywords are often names or dates, okay? Numbers will be dates and percentages. Like, for example, 1985, okay? Or percentages. And quotations that are markers for the position of the monologue or dialogue. Okay? So in our case, it would be like 20%. Or level the playing field. Again, you want to practice this at home, so you want to pay attention to those markers, okay? So pay attention to these markers. Okay, so you don't get lost in the audio, all right? Okay, let's go back and look at the other questions. Does that make sense for everybody, what I mean by pay attention to these markers so you don't get lost in the audio? Is everybody clear what I mean by markers so you don't get lost in the audio? Okay, it looks like most of you are clear on it. Good. Those are very important, okay? You definitely want to practice those, and you definitely want to be quick at identifying those, okay? They will help you. All right, so here when I'm looking at this in my 30-second preparation time, just being familiar with IELTS and practicing lots of IELTS, I know that the speakers will say 20% and they will say country B, okay? And I also know that they will say level the playing field. So I'm listening for those specific phrases. Other parts like imports the products or a company, I have a very strong feeling that that will be paraphrased. So I'm not using company and I'm not using product as a marker, okay? Because if I'm using product and I'm using company as a marker, there's a very good chance I'm going to get lost in the audio because those will be paraphrased and I'm not going to hear those exact words, okay? All right, so question number 24. Some advocates of protectionism believe free trade advocates are only worried about maximizing what for large corporations? Logic will be good here. Hadil, Claudio, please be careful with your P. It's got to be a small p. So either all profit, it's not a proper noun. Please don't write it as a big P, okay? So all like this, profit is okay, or you can write profit like this, it's okay, but profit like this is wrong, okay? That is not a correct word, okay? So this kind of prophet can actually be misunderstood like the Prophet Muhammad, okay? Who is a different kind of prophet or a different meaning of prophet. So don't write a big P, it's not a proper noun. So either all small letters or all big letters. Not like this, it's not a proper noun, it's not a name, and it's in the middle of a sentence. So we definitely would not capitalize the P. Okay, make sure you write it correctly. Hike, watch your spelling, okay? It's profit. I think you mistyped a P for an O there. But yes, otherwise you can do all capitals. Okay, if your question is, can I capitalize everything? Yes, you can. You can capitalize everything, okay? It's actually the safest way. Just when you capitalize everything, be careful with spelling. It's easier to make spelling mistakes when you're using all capitals, okay? It's easier to make spelling mistakes. All right, let's keep going. So, no more than 3 words and or number for each answer. Some people will lose their jobs under free trade agreements, but we must emphasize the needs of the something and not be sidetracked by the needs of the something. What is the answer for 25? Now, for 25, you need to get both of the spaces correct to get the answer correct. So, what's the first one? And you have to have it in the correct order, okay? So, order matters here. We have to emphasize the needs of the many, yeah, and the needs of the few. Very good. Okay, now here, be very careful because the order matters, okay? So in your answer sheet, when you have the space in your answer sheet, you have to write many, comma, few. Both of the spellings have to be correct, and the order has to be correct. If you are writing in the answer sheet and you write like this, you write it as few and then many, like that, that will be wrong, okay? So you cannot write it like that for this question, okay? Be very careful, okay? Because that would be the opposite, and that's incorrect information, all right? So make sure the spelling is correct and the order is correct for this type of question. I hope that's clear for everyone. All right. Number 26, free trade lowers the price of many goods because it increases what? If you don't have a comma, Raya, yeah, it's okay. Just make sure you leave a clear space, yeah. But if you don't have a comma, it's okay. Hike says, free trade lowers the price of many goods because it increases competition. That's right, yeah. And it makes logical sense to say competition. If you know about trade, then you know that competition makes sense. So think about logic, okay? Logic is important when you're looking at these answers. And logically, competition makes a lot of sense there. If I am selling an apple for $5 and my neighbor starts selling the apple for $3, then obviously if it's the same quality of apple, I have to go down with my price, otherwise I will lose my business. So competition makes a lot of sense here. Even if I don't listen to the audio, I can probably guess this answer by logic alone, okay? So if I know free trade lowers the price of many goods because it increases, logic, as long as I understand this part, logic will tell me it's competition. So if you miss an answer, like if you miss this one during the listening, and then you have 10 minutes to answer in the answer sheet, don't panic, just use logic. Logic can help you get some good extra marks that you miss, okay? So keep that in mind. Please keep that in mind, okay? So I'll even make a note of that because it's a very important strategy to practice at home, okay? If you miss a blank during listening, don't panic, okay? Often, you can pick up marks during the 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a lot of time to transfer 40 answers, by the way. During the 10-minute answer transfer time by using logic. Okay, my example here is this question, competition. All right. So don't ever forget about your good friend logic. Your good friend logic can help you to get answers. Use that beautiful brain. It's not just a memorizing machine, it's a thinking machine, okay? Use your brain to think, not just to memorize, all right? Your brain is a thinking machine. All right, so let's keep going. So now here we have that table question, cause and effect. Enter into free trade agreements, jeopardize human rights standards, sweatshops collapse, so that's the cause, the sweatshops collapse. The conditions are highlighted in the what? What's the answer for number 27? In the media. Yeah, it does have to be the exact word in most cases. Yeah, so good question there. All right, the realization that such incidences are not isolated, that's the cause, implore companies and what? To raise their bar. And again, logic can help you with this one. That's right, government. Okay, small g doesn't have to be big. In this case, probably if you have a big G, it will be okay, but government is not a proper noun. It's just a small g, okay? It's just an everyday noun, okay? Everyday noun. So media and government. All right. Let's take a look at 29 and 30, multiple choice. So, again, for those of you who are joining late, don't worry, you can review this video later. It is being recorded. About an hour after this live stream is done, it will be available in our video list on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe, okay? All right, what is Dr. Young's main point in advocating for free trade? By the way, what does the verb advocating mean here? When you advocate for something, when you advocate for an idea, what does that mean? Anyone? Hike, I saw your answer there. I tried to click show, so hopefully it gives me another chance. So supporting, yeah, defending, in defense of. Yeah, in defense of or supporting of are good ways to say it. Supporting of, in defense of. It means that you're pushing that idea forward. So when you advocate it, you support it, you protect it, you encourage that idea. That's right, Safa. You encourage the idea. So you support it. Yeah. And it's used as a verb. So the answer, free trade agreements are the single biggest economic driver for making the world a better place. Free trade agreements are not perfect, but they are a good step towards increasing global welfare. Free trade agreements are not always positive, but can be an important way to level the playing field for domestic manufacturers. So A, B, or C? Which one, girls and guys? What do you think is the correct answer here? Okay, so a lot of you are saying A. There. Some of you are saying B, some of you are saying C. I believe the answer was A, but I could be wrong. Could be B. I think he does say something about B, so we'll check in the answer key. I didn't catch that one. So we'll check the answer key for that one in a moment, okay? I think B is probably, just by my logic, B looks like a better answer, but we'll check it out in a moment. Okay, and what is Dr. Sturgeon, who's obviously advocating for protectionism, what is his opinion? A, B, or C? Overall wealth is increased in society. Middle-class jobs are the foundation of an economy that works for the few and not just for domestic manufacturers. Free trade agreements are bad because they concentrate wealth in the hands of an elite few. So what do you think is the answer for question number 30? Stubborn Gal says C. Appsworld says C. Ramesh says C. A lot of C's coming up. Let's go with C. All right. Let's check out the answers. So, of course, in your book, and for those of you who have our courses from ahelp.com for academic, glshelp.com for general, you have this in your book. You have the answer key. You will find the answers for this exam on page 156. Let's take a look at those. The answers for, okay, so there. 21, 3,000. So if you had 3,000, good. That's the one that we went over, so definitely shouldn't be getting that one wrong. If you got 21 wrong, you either missed the beginning of the class or you weren't paying attention. So 21 is 3,000. 22, tariff, spelled like that, okay? 23, domestic manufacturers. Notice how for 24, you can have a singular or a plural. So it will be profits, okay? The way the answer key is for 25 is not with a comma or a space, but with 3 dots, many and few. And you can do it with the 3 dots, or you can do it with the comma, or you can do it with a space, okay? So all of those will work. 26, yeah, absolutely, competition, okay? 27, media. 28, governments. 29, B. And 30 is C. So if you got all of those right, good for you, good job, okay? Again, don't get freaked out if the topic seems a little bit difficult or tricky. It's totally fine. Just stick with it. Keep practicing and you will do okay. All right. Let me now just go right into section 4 for practice. We're not going to do too much paraphrasing for this right now. You can do that at home. Again, if you are not sure, if you found this difficult, you can go to the transcripts and you can check out where these questions or answers are coming from. So when you go to the transcripts, you can see that the answer for number 21 is coming from this bold section here. The answer for 22 is this bold section here. 24 is this bold section here. And of course, you see that answers come in order. Okay, so if you're at home and you have our full course and you have these exams, again, ahelp.com for the academic, glshelp.com for the general. If you have these exams, then you can go and check the transcripts in the back of the book and see where these answers are coming from, and then listen again. Okay, listen again and pay attention. All right. Okay, so let's go to section 4. Section 4 is the most difficult. We'll review the questions. It's looking for those high-level 7.58, 8.59 IELTS students. You definitely want to try to get at least a few of these answers, even if you are not the highest level in English. You still want to try to get at least a few answers from section 4 so that you can at least get a 6.5. Okay? All right. So let's review the questions for section 4. Like I say, I'm not going to do as much paraphrasing. We'll just review the questions. You can practice paraphrasing at home. The maximum band that you can have is a 9, of course, Apps World. And to get a 9, you need to get, I think, something like 37 or 38 correct from 40, okay? All right, I'll answer some questions after we do section 4. So we'll do section 4, we'll go over the answers, and then I'll give you a chance to ask me some questions about the listening, and then we'll get into it, okay? So if you wrote governments, it should be right, because I think plural will make sense for that answer, honey. So governments would be right for that particular answer, but you have to be careful. You have to make sure that there isn't a plural singular disagreement, okay? All right. Roshni says 39 for 9. Yeah, 39, I believe, yeah, it's very high. You can only get one wrong to get a 9, so you have to really, really get a very high mark for 9. 9s are pretty rare on IELTS, even for native speakers. If you have any spelling mistakes, Hike, for the listening section, unfortunately, you get it wrong. Okay, so spelling mistakes are wrong for listening and for reading as well. Again, I'll answer these questions after we finish section 4. So let's look at section 4 questions. We'll review these. I'll play the audio. You'll answer. We'll look at the answer key, and then I'll give you a chance to ask some questions. All right, here we go. So classify the statements below. On the exam, not on the exam. Right away, I know that the topic of this listening is going to be exams. So I'm thinking about exams. I'm thinking about every piece of information I know about exams. And since I'm sitting in the IELTS exam, that should be pretty clear. Okay, so here we go. You may use any letter more than once. Obviously, you could have an AA or a BB, so you have to be careful about that. Number 31, materials from the third class of the week, materials from the current class. Okay. Question 33 to 40, write no more than 2 words for each answer. Michelangelo. Other works. While Michelangelo is perhaps most famous for painting the Sistine Chapel, he is also famous for a number of other highly respected works, including the Pieta and the statue named, thought to symbolize male beauty. Now, if you know about Michelangelo's works, you can probably even guess number 33. Architectural achievements. So I know right away that this is likely going to be some kind of an art class exam about the famous artist Michelangelo, and hopefully you know a little bit about Michelangelo's history. If you don't, it's okay, don't panic. Far more than just a painter, Michelangelo was also an architect. He was lead architect on St. Peter's Basilica until his death in 1564. Though the structure was not completed until 60 years after his death, his fingerprints are all over the resulting structure because future and faithfully carried out his designs. Michelangelo's influence is also apparent around the rest of the city including at the ancient Capitoline Hill site. Okay, so this is a paragraph completion question, quite long, okay? Servant of the papacy. He was also a loyal servant of the Pope. Sometimes this was important work, though sometimes it was rather pointless. He once built something of the Pope only to see it melted down for cannon parts just a few years later. Moreover, he had to work in where often substandard, often being forced to live and work in small cramped spaces with a number of other men. Literary works. It is interesting to think what he could have made if he was given the freedom to explore his own. While his life may have been difficult, some people argue that this difficulty made him a better artist. Was an important way to escape the difficulties of Michelangelo's life. Though his writings never made much of an artistic impact, they do offer a window into his tortured genius. Okay. So right away, I can see that this is going to be an information piece about Michelangelo. And I can also guess that this is a monologue, not a dialogue. So I can guess that this is one person, not two people. Okay? All right, so let's listen to the audio for listening section 4 of the IELTS, talking about Michelangelo. Does everybody have their paper and pencil ready? Are you ready to answer? Is everybody ready to go on this? All right. Then here we go with section 4. It's the most difficult section. Don't get discouraged. It's absolutely okay. Just follow along as best as you can.
Battery 80%. A week from today. Material from today's class will...
Sorry guys, I have to turn the speaker on there. Just give me a second. I'll start that up again. Okay, here we go.
Listening section 4. You will hear a university lecture on the famous artist Michelangelo. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good to see you all. As you know, we're having an exam a week from today. Material from today's class will be included on the exam, but material from the final 2 classes of the week will not be included. I hope this will give you an opportunity to revise enough to perform well on the exam. With that administrative business out of the way, I'd like to begin today's lecture on the lesser-known works and endeavors of the famous Italian Renaissance artist Michelangelo. While Michelangelo is best known for his painting of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, he was also the creator of a number of other highly respected works. Among these are the Pieta, a statue of Mary holding a deceased Jesus, and the statue David, said to be the representative of the perfect male form. But Michelangelo was not just a painter and a sculptor. One of his crowning achievements is St. Peter's Basilica, a project he was lead architect on for the 17 years preceding his death in 1564. While the basilica wasn't completed until 1626, over 60 years after his death, Michelangelo's influence on the structure was immense, as he had laid out many plans for the structure during his lifetime, many of which were faithfully carried out under the reign of future popes and future architects. Michelangelo's fingerprints are all over modern Rome, and especially what is today Vatican City. Not only through his paintings, frescoes, and sculptures, but also through his architectural achievements. In addition to his influence on St. Peter's Basilica, Michelangelo also redesigned the famous Capitoline Hill area of Rome and designed many chapels within the walls of the Vatican. Michelangelo was also tasked with a number of pet projects over the years. These projects were not one that the man himself wanted to undertake, but was compelled to because of monetary considerations or simply loyalty to the Pope. For example, when Pope Julius II ordered him to construct a 3 times life-size bronze statue of the Pope, Michelangelo had no choice but to accept. The project took up more than 2 years of his life, and 4 years after its completion, the work was unceremoniously melted down to construct cannons. Additionally, the conditions under which he was made to work were often sorely substandard. For years, he lived and worked with 4 other men in a cramped apartment with little to no privacy and no room for his creative juices to flourish. It is interesting to imagine what a genius such as Michelangelo could have accomplished given rein over his own creativity. I personally believe the world is a poor place for him having not been allowed this luxury. However, on the other hand, perhaps Michelangelo's sometimes tortured life imbued his works of art with something more than just artistic genius. Although Michelangelo is a celebrated figure for his works of art and well respected for this architectural acumen, his literary works are virtually unknown to the world. He was a virtuoso of Renaissance art, celebrated in his lifetime and venerated centuries after his death, but his writings never made an impact on the society in which he lived, nor in the years since. Michelangelo was an avid writer of poetry and found that poetry was an invaluable escape from the grind of his everyday work life, especially during the years spent arduously painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Poetry provided an outlet for his frustrations, fears, beliefs, and desires. Those who want to know the real Michelangelo must go beyond his frescoes and sculptures and dig deep into his personal writings. There, one will find a rather tortured soul, harmed by years of physical, political, professional, and personal strife.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Okay, so that was the monologue. Obviously, it's a college or university type lecture. And especially if you're an academic IELTS student and you're planning to travel to study in the US, Canada, Australia, UK, those are the types of lectures that you will hear in class. So you definitely need to practice to listen to professors speaking at this level and at this speed. Now let's go through these answers. All right, so on the exam, not on the exam. Number 31, materials from the 3rd class of the week will be on the exam or will not be on the exam. Is it A or B? What do you guys and girls think? Some of you are saying A, some of you are saying B. Yeah, there's a lot of paraphrasing there, so you might want to go and check the transcripts there to see what's happening. We'll check that out in a minute, but let's say that it is on the exam, so let's say it's A for now, okay? We'll check the transcripts after. Number 32, material from the current class. Will that be on the exam or will that not be on the exam? Number 32, is it A or B? Apps World says A, Raya says A. Lytton says B. Okay, let's go with A. Now, if you say AA, if you're just guessing, you might get them both right, you might get them both wrong. Who knows? But if I had to guess, so if I had to guess for these because I couldn't catch it, she's speaking too quickly, then I would just say A. And A, of course, if you're in Canada or in the US, you're sitting in your university class and you don't understand, what should you do? So you're sitting in the US, you're in your art history class. What should you do if you don't know, if you didn't catch if it's on the test or not? Hike says record it. That's one way. Okay, Mint says ask. Yes, Mint, ask. Ask. Put up your hand and say, teacher, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Will this material be on the class or on the exam or not from this class? So just ask, okay? Don't cry, Hussein. Just ask the teacher, okay? They're not going to take offense. Just put up your hand and ask them, is the material from today's class going to be on the exam? Don't be shy, okay? Do not be shy, okay? Shyness is not a big part of education in U.S., Canada, and in Western universities. All right. So, don't cry, girls and guys. Don't cry, okay? It's an exam. It's a test. It's not for crying, okay? Crying is for other terrible life events. Okay, so Michelangelo. Hopefully you know a little bit about him. If not, that's okay. You will now. So why Michelangelo is perhaps the most famous for painting the Sistine Chapel. He is also famous for a number of other highly respected works, including the Pieta and the statue named what? What's the name of the statue? Number 33. That's right, it's David. David like that. Okay? David like that or David like this will be okay. Okay? If you write David like this, it is wrong, okay? Small d is wrong. David is a name. You have to have a big D, okay? Make sure you have that big D. If you catch David, write David, D-I-V-I-D, D-A-V-I-D, with a big D, okay? So David. All right. Far more than just a painter, Michelangelo was also an architect. He was lead architect on St. Peter's Basilica for how many years? Number 34. How many years? It is a proper noun minutiae, so it has to be a big D. Yes, absolutely, and you need both words, okay? 17 years, okay? Has to be plural, has to have both words. It's correct. Just 17 is wrong, okay? If you say 17 year, it's wrong, okay? It needs to be 17 years. Here, the plural is very important, all right? So keep that in mind. Just 17 is not enough. Hadil, correct. Everybody who wrote just 17 is not okay. Stubborn gal, 17 years is correct, all right? Has to be both. This is wrong, okay? If you write 17 only, it is wrong. So you got to have 17 years, okay? Pay attention to this word, until. All right? So don't lose easy marks. If you catch 17, make sure you write years so you get the full mark. You don't lose that mark. The structure was not completed until 60 years after his death. His fingerprints are all over the resulting structure because future something and something faithfully carried out his design. What are the two words? 35 is popes, yeah, and architects. That is right, okay? So what you need is popes and architects. Don't write the word and, okay? Do not write and, okay? Just popes, architects. You need the S, you need the S, okay? They're both plurals, okay? Maria, popes is okay. Architect is wrong. You don't have an S. You need popes and architects. Stubborn gal, that is a correct answer. So if you guys are looking at the stream, then you can see the correct answers are stubborn gal, Benson has a correct answer, Litton has a correct answer, Vladimir, future, and is not good because future is given. We have future, okay? Don't forget, guys and girls, look at the instructions. Maybe you missed that, but it says no more than 2 words, okay? If you write popes and architects, okay, if you write popes and architects, and is a word, that's 3 words, and IELTS will mark it wrong, okay? So if only one is correct, Chennai, it's wrong, okay? It's still wrong. So you need both of them correct. Popes and architects has to be correct. Michelangelo's influence is also apparent around the rest of the city of what? What is the answer for number 36? 36 is Vatican. Yes, that's right. That's Vatican City. It is not Rome. It's the Vatican City. Okay? Big V. Vatican is correct and Vatican is correct. Okay? These are both correct. Like that. Vatican and Vatican. Okay? Vatican City. Okay? You can get that one from logic. So if you know where the Catholic capital is in Rome, then you know it's Vatican City, which is its own state and governs itself. It is the Vatican City, absolutely. Okay, so again, learning a little bit of history, European history, Asian history, North American history before you sit the IELTS exam is not a bad idea. Okay, let's go on. He was also a loyal servant of the Pope. Sometimes this was important work, though sometimes it was rather pointless. He once built something of the Pope only to see it melted down for cannon parts just a few years later. Number 37, what is the answer? Raya says bronze statue, and Raya is correct. Bronze is a type of alloy, right? Or sorry, it's a type of element. So bronze is a type of metal. It's a metal statue. It's the bronze statue of the Pope. You need both words. You need them spelt correctly to get the correct answer. So it's the bronze statue of the Pope. Only to see it melted down for cannon parts just a few years later. Moreover, he had to work in where often substandard. We can probably guess this word. Number 38 is, that's right, hike, conditions. Hadil, lose the big C, make it a small c, okay? It's not a proper noun. So conditions. Has to have an S, okay? If you miss the S, it's wrong, okay? So you need the plural. The conditions he had to work in, okay? Not architecture apps world, conditions, okay? Bronze statue and conditions. Okay, let's keep going. If you got all of them right so far, then you're doing a great job, and you do not have to worry about getting a good score on IELTS because you'll definitely be in the 7 or more category. Literary works. Now look at those headings too. Those bold headings tell you where the audio is for this type of question. It is interesting to think what he could have made if he was given the freedom to explore his own something while his life may have been difficult. What do you think number 39 is? Yeah, I agree. I think creativity is correct. It has to be the right word form. Creativity as a noun. Not creative, but creativity. Small c, Maria, small c. It's not a proper noun. Lytton, all capitals, great way to avoid mistakes, is correct. Okay, so if you're using all capitals, it's correct. Something was an important way to escape the difficulties of Michelangelo's life. Though his writings never made much of an artistic impact, they do offer a window into his tortured genius. Number 40, what do you think it is? Raya, poetry, very good. Michelangelo, as many of you probably do not know, also was a poet. And it has to be the correct word form, poetry. And here it's a big P because it starts the sentence. Okay, it's the first word in the sentence, so it's a capital P. So it's either poetry or poetry. Okay, one of those two. Has to be a big P. So Hadil, Maria, Apps, World, Yagnesh, you also have to look at where the word is in the sentence, okay? When it's in the middle of the sentence and it's an everyday noun, it's all small letters or all big letters, okay? But you can't have a big C. When it's the first word in the sentence, it has to have a big P, okay? So IELTS does, for the listening and reading sections, keep very strict rules about correct syntax and use of the English language. So please, 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 don't lose easy marks, okay? Really, really important that you don't lose easy marks, all right? So hopefully you got at least some of those correct. In a perfect world, you're getting at least 2 or 3 of the listening section 4 questions correct so that you can get that 6.5 or 5.5 for immigration for general IELTS. And again, if you have our book, you can check those answers in the back of the book. They will be on page 156. So here they are. The correct answer for 31 was B, and for 32 was A. So if you wrote AA, you at least got one correct. Okay, so B and A. Notice 33, David with a big D. 37 is wrong in the answer key. It has to be 17 years. So years is missing here. We'll correct that in the next edition. Okay, 17 is not enough. It has to be 17 years. Okay, you need the word years because it's not in the blank. So you need 17 years. Okay, popes, architects. Notice the plural. The plural. Okay, they do it with 3 dots. You can do it with a comma or a space. Rome is okay, but yeah, sorry, the answer there was Rome, not Vatican. My mistake there, girls and guys. That should have been Rome. And here you needed bronze statue. So bronze and statue, you do need both words, okay? So you would need bronze statue. 38 is conditions. 39 is creativity. And 40 is poetry, okay? So those are the correct answers, all right? Okay, if you get 36 out of 40, I believe you get an 8.5, Chennai, but there is a converter on our website. So if you go to our website and you go to the very bottom, now the print is very small here, and you go to the score calculator, it's a good question. You have this on your website. Then here you have a listening score calculator. So here you have the listening section. And if I type in 36, that was your question. What do I get if I get 36? Let's say you get 36 on, yep. So 36, if you get 36 in listening, it's an 8. If you get 36 in reading, it's an 8. Okay? So 36 is an 8. The score calculator is on your website. Okay? So when you go to aehelp.com, then you will find a score calculator there so you can calculate your raw score. Okay? All right. You can find that. That's free on our website. Just go to the bottom and you'll see score calculator, Chennai. So you can definitely access it. You don't have to pay for the full course. Free students can also use that score calculator. Okay? And it's on the general website and the academic website as well. All right? Okay, so just as a finisher today, we'll take 1 or 2 minutes to answer some questions. So any questions about the IELTS listening section? Okay? Any questions about IELTS listening? Please focus on IELTS listening. If you have general questions, that's okay as well, but let's try to focus on the topic for today's class. Canadian immigration needs a 5.5 last time I checked. So you need a 5.5 total band score with no band under 5. On the general IELTS, okay, on the general IELTS. Just by how you've been doing in class hike, I think you can easily get that mark that you need for immigration, okay? I do definitely suggest doing at least a couple practice exams at gltshelp.com. It's worth the $20, $30 instead of paying another $300 for the exam. So, Manushi says that he heard that it changed this February. It's 6 for, not for academic, definitely general for immigration, but it could be 6 now. It might be 6 that you need for immigration. IELTS score requirements are going up and up and up because English is becoming more and more common everywhere in the world. Multiple choice questions, Maria, can be, the most difficult in the listening section because you're looking at 1 correct piece of information and 2 wrong pieces of information. So often, Maria, logic will help you eliminate at least 1 of the multiple choice answers. So look for logic as one of the tools that you can use for multiple choice answers. And then the other one will be usually something very specific in the wording, a paraphrase that you can catch, okay? So if you look at the multiple choice questions from section 3, section 4 today, it'll be a good example of logic and a specific term that's being paraphrased, okay? If you can't read all of the questions, Chennai, in the amount of time for section 3 and 4 of listening, which is very common because it's 30 seconds is not a lot of time, don't panic. Just really pay attention to the key nouns and verbs, okay? The key nouns and verbs and those markers like 20%, 1845, that tell you where you are in the audio. So pay attention to those marker terms that tell you where you are in the audio and the key verbs and nouns that you can paraphrase, okay? Hussein, you can watch this live video again in about 1 hour after YouTube finishes processing and uploading the video. So once we're finished class, come back in an hour or come back tomorrow, subscribe to the channel, and you can watch again today's class, okay? Roshni, yeah, in the full course, you have 6 full practice exams, and you have the audio for all of those 6 full practice exams. You also have audio for the reading sections to do read-along audio and example speaking interviews. So lots and lots of audio. If I go into the My Student account here, I can actually show you that, Roshni. So you're wondering how much audio is included. The 4 CDs is just for picture. There's actually, I think, 10 CDs. I'll check. So here it says CD1. I'll do a zoom in here. So in your full course, this is what the listening section looks like, and you'll see this in your exam book. It will tell you which track you have to go to. So you have CD1, and you have listening section 1, 2, 3, 4 for CD1. Then you have reading passage 1, 2, 3. We have audio with British speakers for all of the reading passages. And then you have speaking 1, 2, and 3. And then you have CD2, it's the same. Then you have CD3, CD4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 is the bonus CD that tells you days of the week, the imperial system. So you can practice listening for that. Okay, for those of you girls and guys who already joined our full course, awesome. No, you can't download them, Chennai. Thanks for asking that. Can you download them? No, you need an internet connection. We don't allow download for our videos and our audio anymore. Unfortunately, we did that in the past, and some students really took advantage. They put them up on the internet. Then we had to go through a very painful process to get them off the internet. So unfortunately, we only allow them to be used through the internet now. You cannot download them. But as long as you have an internet connection, you'll be fine. I'll show you this. This is days of the week and month. So these are the bonus CDs. Here, you can listen to that a little bit.
Battery 80%.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Imperial system. Ounce, pound, inch, feet, yard.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. That's some of the bonus audio that helps you to listen for these very common types of different English words that are used commonly in IELTS listening, like months of the year, days of the week, and so on. So for those of you who have the course, make sure that you guys are using that, okay? So that when you hear that in the listening section, you can pick that up. Okay, she just said ounce, she just said pound, okay? So make sure that you listen to that if you have the audio, all right? Okay, okay, I'm going to stop there. I know that you have lots of questions, and that's great, but that's all the time we have for today. Again, as I've said before, materials are coming from aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Listening section is the same in both, so what we did today will work for both. To join these classes, Live 20 for a 20% discount off the full course. You can try it for free. Make sure you use the course when you buy it, of course. And thank you so much for watching. You find the audio, Hussein, in our full course when you sign up. Tomorrow's class will be the same time. It's just one class today, one class tomorrow. We'll have 2 classes on Friday, 2 classes on Saturday, 2 classes on Sunday. Tomorrow we'll look at a writing IELTS task 1 for academic. It will be some kind of a combination. So it'll be like a line graph with a table or something like that. So task 1, academic tomorrow. If you're an academic student, definitely want to join tomorrow to learn about task 1 strategies and example. Thank you so much, girls and guys, for watching today, for being here, for learning. Believe in yourself. You'll get those great IELTS scores. Get the highest score that you can because it looks great on your application, not just for immigration, university, but also for work. So thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the class as much as possible. Of course, it is IELTS. It can be a little bit dry. Much love. Have a good night. Have a great day wherever you are in the world. I'm cheering for you, and I believe in you, and I know that you'll do well in your exams. Bye for now. See you tomorrow.